Greetings, dear ones. I'm Craion of Magnetic Service. Once again, we find ourselves in a temple. The sun is coming up outside and we are inside. I want to go slow on this message. The reason is because it is filled with information about numbers. And they're not the numbers of Egypt. This is the temple of Edfu. And it is so well preserved and beautiful. The sacred areas still feel very sacred. And it is well preserved because it is young. Dear ones, the history of this land is grand. Like no other history on the planet. It spans 6 civilizations, retaining the same culture around the same river. There is so much here to know. The history is rich with metaphors, and the truths are profound. It would take books filled with Egyptologists' writing to just give you the introduction of Egypt. Each temple that we visit has a time frame of what was happening then. This one was toward the end, when Egypt was conquered, when the drawings were slightly different. It is something so spectacular to understand the 3,000-year history. The esoterics and metaphysics alone is staggering in its truth. I am not here to reveal these things. It is well known. It has been studied, humans with humans, for 3,000 years. I would like to call this channel the bigger puzzle. 3,000 years of culture is what you are looking at this week. And you are beginning to see some truths, as I said yesterday. They are the same truths that have been all over the earth. Yesterday we told you about the colors, about the water. We told you about the sounds, and a little bit about the numbers. Where all of these things are well known in other cultures all around the planet. Did you ever wonder why there are so many sevens all over the planet with cultures who did not know one another, captured the energy of the seven as being so sacred, assigning the chakras of the body to colors and this number? We've told you that the Egyptians, like so many other cultures, looked to the stars. And we have told you that from the beginning of history before history, they knew of the 7 sisters. All over the planet, there are similar numbers of the creation story. And you see it not only in this culture, but in so many others. We have not yet discussed the alignment and the numbers that you will find here in the tombs, also present in the temples, for the geometry itself tells a story with numbers. When the Egyptologists began measuring things, they saw the sacred geometry that the Egyptians understood and they knew. It's all about numbers, you might say. And that is what I wish to speak to you about today. There is a bigger picture, a much bigger picture. And I'm going to make a statement. Since 2012, you are the only human beings who are able to see the puzzle complete. For there is a worldwide planetary puzzle of numbers coming together. Let me ask you something. What is it that all of the ancients on the planet had in common? Besides living on the dirt of the earth, what did they have in common? And the answer is this. They all looked at the stars. Even though the stars had different positions in different hemispheres, they all saw the same thing. The stars shifted over time. A culture who is 3,000 years old saw it profoundly. But even the ones who are shorter lived saw it as well. The Aztecs, the Toltecs, the Maya, they all saw it. The Tibetans, they saw it. The Hopi Indian nation, they saw it. The ones in the middle of the Pacific, they saw it. And it was called the precession of the equinoxes. The precession of the equinoxes. It represents something in astronomy that the ancients knew and saw and measured. A 26,000-year wobble of the earth. Many on the planet assign prophecies to this wobble. The Tibetans had a prophecy and information on what it meant. Much of what they had was numerology. But it was the master astronomers of the Maya who assigned the numbers that I want to talk about. This is not complex, but there are a few things I want you to see as the numbers start to come together. This is a puzzle that I mentioned 8 months ago, and yet there are few who are putting this together. When you start to measure history, most of the archaeologists say that it started just before Egypt. That you could have 3,000 years of this culture plus another 2,000 years after. But before that, there was very little. We mentioned originally that the history before Egypt is difficult to find. It's almost like it started here, as measured by historians on the planet. Now that is what we wish to speak of. If you put Egypt's time together with the next 2,000 years, you get slightly longer than 5,000 years. Now stop right there. Those who wish to start looking at the planet's prophecies will recognize this number. This is the long count of the Maya calendar. 5,125 years approximately. It happens to almost match that history which you study now plus your own. Egypt plus 2,000 years is the long count of the Maya calendar. And the prophecy around the Maya calendar is what we teach. It relates to everything here. And then the one number that seems to be hiding to many, even the metaphysics of it hides to many. Let me review what the Tibetans have said and what others have said, that there have been literally 5 civilizations on this planet, and you only have seen and measured one, your own. That in this precession of the equinoxes, there have been 5 civilizations. completely and separate and unknown to one another. The first four destroyed themselves. The evidence of that will be seen someday. But for you, you really only have seen the last 5,000 years as a civilized history of the planet. Here is what I want to say yet again. Remember, the prophecy of the equinoxes centers around the wobble of the earth. When the wobble of the earth is at its center point, when you can look at the sun and it lines up with the center of the galaxy, that is the center of the wobble. December 21, 2012. But here is what many have missed. If you take 26,000 years and you divide it by 5, you will have the Mayan long count 5 times. What a coincidence. Dear ones, you are right on schedule for a very high prophecy which has involved most of the ancients on this planet, who measured the things that they built by the stars, who watched the precession of the equinox and knew the prophecies. But all you have known is the last 5,000 years. Isn't it a coincidence that the beginning of time here in Egypt and the end of the Mayan calendar just happens to be the official long count? Now let me explain more. What have we said for these years? We have said that you, as human beings and old souls, are here for this graduation, this shift that is taking place. And that the reason for Cryon at all was to pull the puzzle together and to show you what a higher consciousness is that is coming to this earth. The basic truths of a higher consciousness are written on the walls of the oldest temples in Egypt. And there are those who would say, Cryon, how can you say that? They had many gods instead of one. Because the metaphysics of compassion and truth are universal. When you start to look at integrity, compassion, and truth, the ancients had more of it than you do. You are starting to relearn what was literally inscribed in the walls of the ancients. In North America, the Hopi Indian shows the prophecy on a rock. Oh, the drawings are not as elegant as they are here, but it shows exactly what I'm speaking of. The precession of the equinoxes is the prophecy of the planet. And you are now starting to participate in a shift of consciousness that you have never seen before. And if you will listen to the Egyptologists speak about the metaphysics of that which is believed here, and the metaphors of that which is believed here in ancient times, you will see the truth. They understood the one God. It had many parts, but it was always the one that was in heaven. Dear ones, there is a great deal to know about this puzzle. But overwhelming things I want to tell you is about you in history at this moment. There are those of you who sit in this temple hearing me right now. And there are those who are listening after the fact. I want to talk to those who are right here, right now. What do the ancients tell you right now? The ones who walked in here. What do they say? Why did they do what they did? And even Egypt in its end times had the same theme. A temple built more than just for a mythological god or one who was part human. It was about the sacredness and the integrity of a compassionate God with a plan. It's only since 2012 that you can see the puzzle complete. When you start to add the numbers of the civilizations, it starts to tell the story. The precession of the equinox and the prophecy is not a metaphor. The ancients said it was coming, and it's here. We'll talk more about this later. Let this puzzle be complete. Let you see that the 3,000 years of Egypt plays an important part in exposing the compassion of the Creator and how it was looked at and worshipped and the beauty of all that is. The puzzle starts to come together. And so it is.